planning strategy or strategies, as the case may be?
Well, the matter of fact is that when people move to cities, they need a place to stay. And if those places are not provided for them proactively, they will find some informal or organic ways to find places to stay. And this is very urgent in Nigerian cities because Nigeria, according to United Nations prospects, Nigeria is the only country, except for Bangladesh, that's going to have cities that are over the population of 1 million, double from 2018 to 2030. So currently we have about 10 cities that are over 1 million population. By 2030, it's projected to be 20 cities. That's a 100% increase. No other country in the world has these statistics except for Bangladesh. China has about 120 cities that are over 1 million people. By 2030, it will be about 170. In USA is about 55, which will grow to 75, and India is about 65, which will still grow as well. But none of them is going to have this double increase. So the urgency of Nigeria to really plan its cities is very critical, and that's why we cannot sit down and let people continue to move to cities without a plan for them, without telling them this is how the land should be used in these cities, because land, in a sense, is finite. So we need to really organize our land and know, okay, more people are coming in. These are spaces for them to develop their housing. These are spaces for services like schools and hospitals. These are spaces for recreation. Recreation is always going to, there's always going to be a demand for recreation. And this is why urban planning is very, very important in the face of urbanization. Otherwise, it will lead to chaos.
Okay, like they say, when you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. All right, now moving on to you, sir, Dr. Kumo. Could you just tell us how the rapid urbanization in Nigeria is impacting the demand for infrastructure in the country?
Thank you. As you just said, if you fail to plan,
You're
you
planning
are
to
planning
fail.
to fail. In planning, for example, when you are doing a master plan, you prorate the population. For example, in FCT, you will assume that by so years, you need so number of cubic of water for the residents. Transportation, you need this number of buses. You need the rail transport. You estimate the population of FCT. So now, in terms of schools also, and a lot of things. So now, when there is this urbanization, people troops in to cities and towns without proper planning, because that's where the most important thing is. Master plan does not provide for the influx of this number of people. So therefore, the resultant effect is that you will have a shortage of transportation because people that were not planned for have moved into the town. You will have shortage of medical facilities. You will have shortage of schools. You will have shortage of houses because not adherence to master plan, people came in and then now there will be overstretching of infrastructures. That's why, for example, if you look at the Mararaba Road in the morning,
Okay.
just try and look at Abuja Mararaba Road, you realize that a large number of people are living there which were not planned for. So you see congestion, you see traffic, you see overcrowding, you see a lot of things. So the resultant effect is that they will overstretch the available and planned facilities which were done, and non-adherence to master plan again. That's the main issue, because if you adhere to the master plan, you will control the urbanization. For example, if Lube is designed to accommodate 500 people, for example, then when you realize that Lube is accommodating 3 million, you do not adhere to the master plan. So therefore, you will not have adequate water, you will not have light, you will not have a lot of things. And then again, it's now turning to even a crime zone when there is urbanization. Look at all areas in Abuja that are overpopulated. You see there is a high rate of crime. You realize there is high rate of crime. You realize there is overcrowding. You know, a lot of issues there. So there is a need for the adherence to the master plan. And then you can clearly see the effects that have arisen due to the urbanization.
Okay.
Everything will be overstretched.
All right, so if I got you correctly, during your explanation, you made mention of a master plan, and you said, I am trying to paraphrase what you said. Master plan does not plan accommodation of, if the master plan does not plan the accommodation of newcomers, so to say, in quote, that is people who are coming in, flocking into the cities every day in search of greener pastures. Does this master plan not have an idea of eventualities? Because by planning, you're also trying to accommodate today and also what happens tomorrow and in the next. So this master plan, does it not have a space for what happens tomorrow? Because of course, as you keep progressing, not just with the country, but also when it comes to our small circles, right from our family, from schools and other places of socialization, there is always that tendency of growth, even in size and population. Good. So does this master plan have that idea of accommodating these eventualities?
It does. A master plan moves with demography.
Okay.
If they plan a town for 1 million people today, according to population projection, they will say, okay, by 2024, the population will be 1.2 million. And in the master plan, provision will be planned for. You know, master plan is a plan. Provision will be made for 1.2 million. Then at the point in time, due to this urbanization, you realize that what was planned for 1.2 million, 5 million people are managing it. Because it's a planning. And it has a first implementation. So when you plan today, for 2024, for example, for 1 million people, then you will assume that by 2026, the population will be 1.5. Then in the master plan, you will make provision for that. For example, if you have one hospital with 1 million people, you will plan that by 2026, you will have 2 hospitals. Then with 1.5 million people. Then the effect of the urbanization is that before the 2026, you will have 5 million people. So it means the facilities you have provided for a particular number of population, the population has tripled. So the facilities, due to the influx, the facilities cannot take care of the particular number of people. It's not that there is no plan for expansion. No, but because before the planned execution of the plan, the population has tripled.
Okay.
You understand? So master plan is dynamic. It's taking care. It takes care of population according to how the population will increase. So, but you know, in urbanization, a population increase is not planned for. So therefore, you do not make adequate provision for the population that will come up. That is why you see the effects of overstretching the available infrastructure for the particular number of population that were planned for.
Okay, from our conversation so far, we've seen that rapid urbanization in Nigeria sure has its own impact, and of course the need for people to come into the urban cities, or urban areas rather, for greener pastures definitely has some effect. Alright, you're watching Housing TV Africa, and this is City Pulse, and we've been talking urbanization, causes and effects, and we'll be doing this again after the break.
Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts on Facebook, Housing TV Africa, on Twitter, Housing TV Africa, Instagram, Housing TV Africa. Join the conversation and keep up with latest housing updates.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Welcome back. It's City Pulse on Housing TV Africa. We are discussing urbanization and its impact in our society. And to do justice to this, we've been talking to town planner Dr. Usman Kumo, Chairman, National Assembly Liaison, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, and Town Planner Mohammed Lawal Shuaibu, Member NITP, Acting Coordinator NITP Young Planners Forum FCT. Alright, now back to you, Town Planner Shuaibu. What challenges does this pose for NITP in ensuring sustainable development? That is, before the break, we were talking about rapid urbanization in Nigeria and how it is impacting our infrastructure, and then he was giving us an idea of the master plan and all of that. So what challenges does this pose for the NITP in ensuring that we have sustainable development in Nigeria?
Well, the primary aim of the NITP is in fact ensuring that we have sustainable development of Nigerian cities.
Okay.
And the NITP is an association of professional town planners in Nigeria. Currently, we know the NITP has about a little over 6,000 town planners in Nigeria. Okay. And this is where one of the challenges begin to come about. And again, it's not unique to the NITP. Across so many professions where there's a kind of shortage of professionals compared to the growing population. But in the case of urbanization, where the pressure is continuing to increase in cities, we have about 6,000 members of the NITP, a little over that are responsible for planning cities for over 200 million people. So you can imagine the pressure with that. So that's the first thing. That's one of the challenges, that the more urbanization occurs, the more pressure there is to plan cities to meet the demands of urban populations. Another thing that we have to focus on as well is that these master plans that we continue to talk about, there are not a lot of cities in Nigeria that have active master plans. And when I say active, it means there are some cities that have master plans that have been prepared and are sitting on shelves, while there are some cities that have master plans that are long overdue for reviews. And when these cities do not have active master plans, it's kind of difficult for town planners to find something to go by in terms of managing the cities, because you go from a point of planning a city, this is what should occur in the city, and when those things begin to occur, how do you manage it? One of the things that you're managing is urbanization. The more population is increasing, we know the master plans are fluid. You have to kind of adjust technically and systematically to meet the rising population. But when there's nothing even to adjust, then a lot of things are just happening very organically, which could be positive and negative, but in most cases it happens very negatively, where populations just grow. If you look at satellite imagery of pretty much any Nigerian city, look at the satellite imagery from just say 2000, which is about 20 years ago, 24 years ago, and you look at the satellite imagery today, you will see that the built environment of the urban core is beginning to expand very organically and almost uncontrolled into the urban fringes and into the rural areas. So these kind of things are very difficult for town planners to control, and that's where the issue of development control comes in. You have to control your development, you have to make sure it's going according to a master plan. But again, like I said, if there's no master plan to even develop, to even control the development and to manage it, things like this become so difficult for town planners and for the Nigerian use of town planners in effect.
Okay, all right. In the course of your explanation, I got a point where you said that not a lot of cities in Nigeria have a master plan, or even what we can say an active master plan. So how is the NITP coming into the gap? For instance, like for cities, I do not know if these cities have been identified so that the NITP can collaborate with these states or governments to ensure that there is a way that there can be a review, or let's say a better way to look at this. How is the NITP stepping in this regard? Yes,
NITP has been doing a lot of advocacy over the years, and in fact visits to the influential decision makers, so to say, to explain to them, to paint the picture to them on the need, on the dire need to plan. Let them know that it's very urgent, because when they don't plan, their cities are not going to wait for the plans to be prepared. The cities are going to keep growing regardless. So the NITP has met, I think, almost all state governors in Nigeria to kind of enlighten them and let them know that there is a need to plan their cities, there's a need to develop master plans for their cities, and to review cities, city master plans that are due for review. And we've had some success in that area. A number of states have been visited, a number of state governors, and some states are beginning to kind of wipe their cupboard and bring out their master plan and see, okay, where's the gap, where are we, where were we before, and how can we meet this gap. But there's still a lot more to be done, and it's not only on the hands of these state governors. The NITP is also doing a lot of public outreach, like we're doing now, to like inform people on the need for them also to demand that their spaces are well planned. So these are some of the efforts by the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners to kind of educate the government, educate the public, and also strengthen the capacity of town planners within the institute to be able to prepare these master plans when called for.
All right. Okay, that's just a bit of what I was going to ask him, even though it was particularly on the active master plan or the need to review the master plan of various states. All right, sir, coming back to you, Dr. Kumo. What role does urban planning play in addressing the social and environmental implications of rapid urbanization in Nigeria?
Thank you. As we have been hammering to the adherence of master plan.
Okay, sir.
You know, all these problems, environmental problems that have been caused, is due to non-adherence to the master plan. Let me take one example, housing, for example. We have been complaining shortage of housing in Nigeria. When, for example, if you take a look at Shagari housing program, this program was located, 80% of the houses were located in bush. You get me?
Yes,
so why is this? It's because of poor location of the site, and which is a clear non-adherence to the master plan. So all this now, most of these houses now have become a criminal hideout. Instead for us to address housing shortage in Nigeria, it caused a security problem. And what is it? It's mainly due to failure to adhere to planning advice. So in essence, a master plan is a compendium of social, economic and physical activities of cities. So therefore, if a master plan have not been executed, you should expect consequences arising from that. You get me? Yeah. So the location I said now, there is another Fashola housing program that was done. All of them were located at the outskirts. And these houses were designed for average income earners, which ideally are expected to be around the city center to afford going to markets, going to working places, and lots of. So now you have taken them to outside the towns where transportation alone will be a problem to them, to working place, to markets, and lots of the. So there is a need for the adherence to the master plan. The national president, TPL Nathaniel Atibije, has constituted a committee of National Assembly liaison. We went to National Assembly before many committees and presented our problem. We have a problem, and lack of this adherence to the master plan is what is causing so many planning problems in the country. Please help us enact a law and talk to the relevant authorities. So with this, by the grace of God, if such has been taken care of, we expect improved implementation and adherence to the master plan in future.
Okay, good to know that you are having an interface with the lawmakers, because there is that urgency for planning in Nigeria, and the fact that you are not doing this in isolation shows that you are a group that is committed to ensuring that everyone is carried along. I would really love to know how the efforts have been so far, trying to interact with members of the National Assembly, both at the upper and the lower chamber. How has it been like? What successes so far? If we just take out a bit of time to give us an understanding of this, so that our viewers will understand what has been happening in that regard.
Late last year, the national president directed my committee, of which I'm the chairman, to write to the National Assembly committee on relevant environmental committees like housing, works, FCT, and co. So we wrote and we went to the National Assembly. The national president presented cases of non-adherence to master plan.
Okay.
With example of states and the FCT itself. So the chairman of the House Committee on Urban Planning and Development promised us that he's going to look at it. He's going to, if there need be, call for meeting with all the stakeholders to see how he can make it like a bill to his colleagues to ensure that all the planning problems we mentioned have been taken care of, and then the master plan has been looked at through a bill at the National Assembly.
Okay. All right. So much of efforts are so far, but of course there's always room for more. All right. Coming back to you, Town Planner Shaibu, could you just tell us how does the urgency for improved planning align with the broader goals of Nigeria's urban development initiative, specifically that of your institute, the NITP?
So the goals of the NITP again is we are pursuing sustainable development of Nigerian cities, and sustainable development is a very broad scope. It has a very broad scope, right? Within that, you're talking about housing, you're talking about transportation, you're talking about water and sanitation. It's so broad. So I'll just say three things, right? For example, one, we have environmental issues that we are grappling with throughout the countries, and one of them is the issue of flooding, right? Last year, Nigeria faced, last 2 years, pardon me, Nigeria faced very severe flooding that affected a very large population. And one of the reasons for this is, again, going back to the lack of planning. And because when there's no plan, so to say, and a lot of people are moving into cities and the rate of urbanization is high, people will live anywhere that gives them access to that economic opportunity that they are looking for. It doesn't really matter what the condition of those places are, and again, it doesn't matter if those places are within floodplains and are at risk to certain disasters. But when there's a plan, you would realize that some places are earmarked as flood-prone zones where people should not live there. It should be natural buffers to allow for the flow of water and things like that. So that's one of the effects of urbanization in terms of the goals of urban planning, like these environmental issues. Another thing is transportation. When more people are flocking into cities, right, they need to move about. So they need to go from, there's something called first places, which are our houses, that's the first place, to second places, which are this work, school, markets, other places we need to go to, and then to third places, which are public spaces, the parks and what have you. People will always want to move about in cities, and when you don't provide them with functional means of transportation within cities, they are left with relying on whatever is available. Yes. I'll give you a case in Abuja, for example, where people are relying on private salon cars for their daily transportation because of the lack of functional public transport systems like buses. We know Lagos, in fact, there was a joke one time that at one point Lagos will come to a standstill because of the utter lack of public transportation, although they are making strides in their mass transportation and the urban rails and what have you. But the effect of this also is that people are going to be depending a lot on private vehicles, and that also has other far-reaching effects in terms of vehicular emissions, which lead to environmental issues like pollution. And we know that Nigeria, in fact, Lagos had one of the highest rates of child airborne diseases. I think in the world it was very, very high. And these are some of the effects of these issues. We also talk about crime. There's something called preventing crime through urban design. And urban design is also like a branch of urban planning. And the idea behind this theory is that when there are more eyes on the streets, when you have more active streets, the prevalence of crime is a bit reduced. So there are certain crimes that are hardly ever conducted in public, things like murder or things like kidnapping or rape, for example. These kinds of crime need a sense of like mystery for it to occur, while other crimes like pickpocketing and things can occur in public. But the idea behind that is that when you plan spaces for people to interact with each other better, for people to see, so no place is kind of secluded, you are going to have a reduction in the incidence of crime. So these are all environmental and social issues that urban planning can help to address, and these are some of the things that, some of the goals of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners embedded within the whole sustainable development. If all of these things are properly done, we would realize that the quality of life in cities across Nigeria will begin to gradually improve.
Oh, good to know that the NITP is not just advocating for physical planning, but also putting the needs and yearnings of Nigerians into consideration, with the fact that you just said people will always move. So how do we bring out goals that align with the fact that they need to aspire at every point in time? All right, just before I let you go, Saz, this time, how is this coming up for the NITP, especially when you have a big plan, a big picture, making the people to see that there's a big picture you want them to see? We are not saying you shouldn't migrate, we are not saying you shouldn't come into the cities, but this is what we need to do at this point. For instance, someone is somewhere planning to build, and then you're telling him that we need to take some part of this out to ensure that every other person is comfortable, so that we create resilient and vibrant cities or spaces where everyone can live and thrive. How has it been like trying to engage or involve the people?
As we've been hammering, people are supposed to live where they are planned for.
Okay.
If there is no plan for you to live in Abuja, you are not supposed to live in Abuja. And then with time, the studies have shown that upon all these issues we've been talking about, people now identified, for example, even illiteracy. There is a scholar that said to him, one of the causes of this urbanization is illiteracy. We asked him why. He said, okay, now look at the Okada man, for example, that a number of Okada people came in, for example, from Katsina, about 100 or 200 of them. These people, if they are well educated, for example, in Katsina, they will have taken local government job or state government job, or they will have become teachers. So because of this lack of education given to them at early stage, they are now in Abuja, in Lagos, doing Okada. And when you are talking about urbanization, you also have to factor them in, because they overstretched. If they are sick, they go to hospital that there is no planning for them to attend. If they need water, they take water that we did not plan for them to attend. Some of them will give birth to children wherever they are staying at the suburb. They go to school where there is no plan for them to go to. So now, the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners will continue to advise the federal government, continue to advise when there is a housing problem. The national president quickly writes to the federal minister of housing. When there is a problem in terms of works, he writes to. So ours is just advisory, and we'll continue to advise the federal government until the federal government adopts all the planning and advice the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners have been given to them.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Kumo. We appreciate you. And Town Planner Shaibu, thank you so much for coming right here to enlighten the masses about all they need to know. And also, we appreciate your efforts, your advocacy efforts, even though you said advisory, but I see that you are right there always trying to ensure that the right things are done, to ensure that Nigerians have spaces where they do not just live, but they are able to breathe. Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
All right, there you have it. A discussion on urbanization, its causes and effects. A big thank you to our esteemed guests from the NITP for sharing their invaluable insights with us today. Now, here's a little thought to carry with us. With rapid urbanization, how can we make our neighborhoods better? How can we improve the nature of living? And it is important to remember that the future of our cities is in our hands. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's collectively work towards building vibrant and resilient open spaces that enhance the quality of life for everyone. I am Cassandra Yinumbe. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to follow us on all social media platforms at Housing TV Africa, and do not also forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Housing TV Africa. Bye for now.
Join us on a captivating experience through the dynamic world of town planning in Nigeria as we delve into the visionary projects and insights of top experts, witnessing the remarkable transformation of spaces into extraordinary communities. Immerse yourself in engaging discussions with leading town planning professionals as they address critical issues and offer innovative solutions to empower communities. Experience the pulse of the cities of tomorrow on City Pulse, a weekly television program presented by the National Institute of Town Planners. Gain exclusive behind-the-scenes looks and discover groundbreaking strategies shaping the urban landscape. Don't miss a beat. Showing weekly on Housing TV Africa. Star Times Channel 149.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Hello and welcome. Here is the news update on Housing TV Africa. I am Abiola Ogoyenka. A quick look at the headlines. President Tinubu to launch renewed Hope Housing Program. HDAN calls for government intervention as cost of building materials keeps rising. Canada extends ban on ownership of housing amid affordability crisis for foreigners. Now the news in detail. Starting with a ray of hope for the housing sector in Nigeria, the President Bola Tinubu is set to inaugurate the renewed Hope Cities and Estate program. The program aims to provide a much-needed boost to housing availability across the country, offering a total of 40,000 units. These will be distributed in locations across the 6 geopolitical zones and the Federal Capital Territory, with each site receiving 1,000 units. According to a statement by Dr. Marcus Ogunbiyi, a permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, the program will officially launch with the unveiling of 3,112 housing project sites in Karasana Town, Abuja. This project demonstrates the scale and ambition of the Renewed Hope Initiative. The program represents a significant commitment from the Tinubu's administration to tackling Nigeria's housing challenges. With a growing population and a significant housing deficit. Affordable and accessible housing is a critical need for many Nigerians. The initiative aims to foster development across various parts of the country, potentially stimulating local economy and creating jobs. The building and construction industry in Nigeria is facing significant challenges, with construction costs rising by 200% over the past 2 years. Factors such as fluctuations in exchange rate, rising prices of building materials and labor costs have contributed to this increase. It is also worthy of note that Nigeria's inflation rate rose to 28.9% as of December 2023, which attributed mainly to the removal of petrol subsidy and the devaluation of the official exchange rate, both impacting consumer prices across the board. The exchange rate crisis has worsened the plight of the building sector, particularly affecting imported materials like windows, doors, ceramic, tiles, plumbing appliances and sanitary wares, which constitute a significant portion of the building market. Also, prices of locally sourced materials, accounting for 37% of the market, have risen due to demand in production and transportation costs. Essentially, building materials such as cement, blocks, doors, reinforcement rods, sand, timbers, paints, roofing sheets and glass have witnessed price hikes of over 75% in the past 12 months, posing challenges for supply, affordability and accessibility to housing, especially for low and middle income earners. architects and other building construction professionals have expressed concerns over the impact of skyrocketing materials and labor prices on the construction industry. Still in the news, the Executive Director of the Housing Development Advocacy Network, ICHDAN, Festus Adebayo, has expressed strong concerns about the recent increase in the price of building materials, particularly cement and iron rods. He highlighted the jump from 6,500 naira to 7,500 naira for a bag of cement, effectively pushing affordable housing further out of reach for countless Nigerians. ICHDAN, known for advocating for accessible housing solutions, has called on the current administration to find solution to the rise in costs. Mr. Adebayo emphasized the broken promise of affordable mortgage and credit system used during the presidential campaign. He further went on to draw a connection between the economic hardship and the rising crime rates, suggesting that the struggle for basic need pushes many towards desperate measures. He urged the government to prioritize making housing development truly accessible for all. With that, we'll take a break to later bring you stories from Canada and Turkey. Stay with us. Glad to know you are still there, and you're welcome back. Still in Nigeria, the African Development Bank AFDB has announced plans to disburse $540 million to kickstart the first phase of development for special agro-industrial processing zones called SAPS in Nigeria. As part of the move by the federal government and the bank to enhance food security in Nigeria, the initial phase of SAPS development will benefit 3 states, namely Oyo, Kaduna, and Cross River. These states are poised to receive support for the establishment of processing zones, and other states are set to follow suit once documentation processes are completed. According to a statement issued by Stanley Nwaucha, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, he noted that Office of the Vice President Kashim Shettima has urged swift action, emphasizing the need for the government and its development partners to translate these plans into tangible results. Now in Canada, the government has announced a 2-year extension to the ban on foreign ownership of Canadian houses. Concerns over Canadians being priced out of housing markets across the nation have prompted this decision. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland emphasized the necessity of utilizing all available tools to make housing more affordable for Canadians, extending the ban from its original expiration date of January 1, 2025 to January 1, 2027. The housing crisis in Canada has been compounded by several factors, including a surge in migrants and international students. This influx has led to increased demand for homes, while construction costs have skyrocketed, worsening the affordability challenge. To address these issues, Canada has recently implemented measures such as a 2-year cap on international student permits and limitations on work permits for some graduates, aiming to tackle the housing crisis fueled by record numbers of newcomers. Inflation has also persisted in Turkey till date, as January's data reveals further rise in housing and utility prices. The economy is struggling with soaring inflation rates, with year-on-year headline inflation hitting 64.86%, surpassing analysts' predictions and making the highest figure since November 2022. Despite efforts to curb inflation, month-on-month inflation has risen to 6.7%, indicating a significant jump from December's data, which is at the 2.93%. Amidst the concerning inflation figures are indication of stability in certain sectors, because core inflation is excluding volatile food and energy prices, which saw a marginal decrease from December to January. Notably, housing and utility prices experienced a notable increase, reaching 45.99% in January as against 40.39% recorded the previous month, contributing to the overall inflationary pressure. However, there were a slight decline in food and non-alcoholic beverage inflation, offering a varied perspective on the inflationary landscape. But then, in response to the economic challenges, Turkey raised its minimum wage by approximately 49% in December, aiming to alleviate the burden on citizens battling with the rising cost of living. Before we call it a wrap, here is a recap of the major stories. We begin with President Bola Tinubu's plan to inaugurate the renewed Hope Cities and Estate program across the country. And in line with that, Housing Development Advocacy Network, HDAN, a group known for advocating for accessible housing solutions, has called on the current administration to find solution to the rise in costs of building materials. And we also told you that Canada has announced a 2-year extension to the ban on foreign ownership of Canadian houses. For more news in the housing sector, do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Housing TV Africa. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at Housing TV Africa. I am Abiola Ogoyinka. Thank you for watching.